Okay, so now that we've looked at the Pythagorean identities proof, I wanted to briefly go over with you how to easily remember all these Pythagorean identities. We're going to need to know this because we're going to simplify trig expressions using these identities, and you really need to know these by heart. So the first one to me is the easiest. Sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. It's the only one with the plus sign, and remember when we learn trig functions, the first two that we learn is sine and cosine. Those are basically the easiest to understand as well. So they go together as a pair and there's a plus sign in between them. Also, they're equal to 1. All of these are equal to 1, and that's one way that can help you remember all three of them. So the last thing I would say is don't forget the squared. If they weren't squared, the Pythagorean identity would not have worked. The Pythagorean theorem wouldn't have worked. So again, it's sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. You say that enough times, it won't take you but 5 minutes to learn all three of these and to remember them. The second one is secant squared minus tangent squared equals 1. So as I said before, the other two are minus, only the first one is plus. Now the real question is, how do you remember secant and tangent go together? I would just say this: S comes before T in the alphabet. So we have secant squared minus tangent squared equals 1. Again, it's only going to take you a few minutes to say that. Maybe use a note card and you will remember this identity. The last one is pretty easy because they both have C in them. So we have cosecant squared minus cotangent squared equals 1. Again, they all equal 1 and the last two are minus. Notice too how these correlate. Secant and cosecant tend to pair together, and tangent and cotangent tend to pair together. So they're above and below each other in terms of grouping all three of these. So sometimes that might help you. You would never see secant and cosecant together in the actual identity, but they do kind of correspond to each other in these two separate identities. So again, it's secant squared minus tangent squared equals 1, S comes before T, and cosecant squared theta minus cotangent squared theta equals 1. Both of them start with C. And of course, we can't forget the first one, sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So that's the way I help myself remember them. Again, make yourself some note cards. Spend about 5 to 10 minutes and you'll have these memorized. And don't forget, if you haven't already, to make sure to watch those videos on the proof of these, because that will really help solidify these concepts. If you have any other questions about the memorizing these Pythagorean identities, let me know.